My name is Kerry Gerein, and I am an Agronomy Consulting Expert out of the Meota location. Today I am going to be talking to you guys about canola seed genetics. The first genetic trait to consider is the herbicide tolerance systems. So when it comes to different herbicide tolerance systems, there are quite a few different options available. There is Roundup, TrueFlex, Liberty, a Roundup and Liberty stack, as well as a Clearfield trait. So when considering your different herbicide systems, it's very important to first consider your crop rotation on the farm, what you have for weed species, and how high of weed pressure you have, and then determine what is your best herbicide system to use. There are multiple different varieties available with different disease-resistant packages. So this genetics is going to really help to prevent yield loss against diseases including clubroot, sclerotinia, and blackleg. Blackleg is also known as a stem canker, which is caused primarily by a fungus and it overwinters in the crop stubble. It will cause girdled stems, which then results in limited uptake of moisture and nutrients, which then results in yield loss. The best identification practice for blackleg is at swath timing, and at that point you go in and you clip your stems at the base, and then you look at the interior of the stem for black pigment. Best management practices against blackleg would be resistant varieties as well as a good crop rotation. Sclerotinia is a disease of canola that overwinters in the stubble or in the soil as sclerotic bodies. Canola that is affected by sclerotinia is going to have lesions on either the leaves, the stems, or the branches. The main stems of canola that is affected by sclerotinia will eventually become brittle and bleached. These plants are going to ripen prematurely, and that will result in a lower seed set and even smaller seeds, which then is going to result in a lower yield of the canola plant. Currently there are limited varieties that have tolerance or resistance to sclerotinia, so best management practices against sclerotinia is going to be practicing a good crop rotation and also using a fungicide when conditions warrant high disease pressure. Clubroot is a soil-borne disease that overwinters in the soil as resting spores. When a canola plant becomes infected, this pathogen is going to cause cell division and cell growth, and that is then going to lead to galls forming on the roots. With these galls, it's going to limit the moisture and nutrient uptake into the canola plant, and with that, it's going to lower the yield in the canola. The galls that are formed on the canola roots are going to limit the moisture and nutrient uptake to the plant. This is then going to cause premature death of the plant, resulting in a lower yield in that plant. There are many different canola varieties available that have the clubroot resistance trait in them. Other important management practices against clubroot include making sure you're scouting your fields early so then you can see the clubroot if it's there. Make sure you're not transferring soil from one field to another, controlling your host weeds, and also practicing a good crop rotation. Additional genetic traits that can be included in canola varieties are standability and pod shatter. So pod shatter trait, that is going to be very important if you are going to be practicing delayed swathing or straight cutting canola. The standability is going to be very important to help minimize the development of disease, and it's also going to increase harvest efficiencies. Canola that is lodged is going to be a lot more difficult to combine and to swath versus one that is standing. With different canola varieties, there will also be a variation in plant height and days to maturity. When it comes to plant height of canola, this tends to be more of a grower preference. Days to maturity can be a very important factor on the farm, especially if you're in a shorter growing season or if it seems like you always have troubles to get that harvest completed earlier on in the season. If this is the case, then it will be more beneficial to lean towards earlier maturing varieties. Last but not least, yield potential can be viewed as the most important genetic trait. However, it is much more important to consider all of the other genetic traits that we have just gone over. The reason for this is because those traits are going to increase your quality, harvestability, and reduce the disease pressure on your farm. Once the most important traits are selected for your farm, that will then narrow down the variety selection, and from there, the varieties that have the top yield potential within your growing area should be selected. Now that's a wrap up on canola seed genetics. Thank you for listening today. If you would like some more info on canola genetics, or if you would like to talk about specific varieties, please reach out to your local GMAX Ag Team representative. Chat with either your ACE, agronomist, or account manager.